From Darkness to Redemption, a tale of compassion and forgiveness, is a poignant narrative that delves into the transformative journey of a woman who grapples with her complicity in cruelty and seeks redemption. The story unfolds as she reflects on her past, marked by the mistreatment of a young girl in her household. Amidst the shadows of regret and a life marred by cruelty, a glimmer of hope emerges as she endeavors to right the wrongs of her past. The narrative weaves a powerful tale of compassion, forgiveness, and the resilience of the human spirit. As the characters navigate through hardship, the story ultimately reveals the profound impact of mercy and the possibility of finding light even in the darkest corners of our lives. Here are the circumstances of this story.
Hello to all my listeners. Today, I would like to share with you the great confession of my life. The confession of a secret that torments my days and nights, leaving me with an endless taste of bitterness in my mouth. I am a woman, a wife, and a mother to a son and a daughter. Since the beginning of my life with my husband, we have lived a comfortable life. Throughout my married life, I have employed numerous nannies for the upbringing of my children. Each of them stayed with me for no more than 2 months, fleeing the natural cruelty of my husband. He excelled in tormenting every nanny working for us, and I cannot deny that sometimes I participated in his crimes. When my daughter was 7 years old and my son was in middle school, a farmer, a friend of my husband, came with his 7-year-old daughter. My husband welcomed him with pride and arrogance. The simple farmer said. He came with his daughter to work for us in exchange for £20 per month, and we agreed. The farmer left his daughter, who cried while holding on to her father's coat, and left with tears in his eyes. The young girl began her new life with us. She woke up early in the morning to help me prepare meals for my children, then carried their school bags and walked them down the street to wait with my daughter and son until the school bus picked them up. She would then return to the apartment for her breakfast, often plain fufu and almost stale bread. Afterward, she would start the household chores, cleaning, mopping, vegetable shopping, and answering calls until midnight, where she would collapse on the floor from exhaustion, falling asleep. In case of negligence or delay in completing a task, my husband would violently strike her. She endured the blows, crying patiently. Despite this, she was extremely honest, clean, and devoted to her employers, finding joy in the simplest things. While I admit to being an accomplice in my husband's cruelty towards housemaids and his mastery in their torture, I sometimes felt compassion for this girl because of her kindness and vulnerability. I begged my husband not to hit her, but he would tell me that this kind of person did not deserve gentle treatment. The girl continued to endure suffering in silence and patience. Even when my children went out happily during holidays, she stayed behind, cleaning and washing mercilessly. As for her father, we only saw him a few times when he came to collect his salary. He would then send one of his relatives to retrieve his monthly wages. Also, she only saw her mother and sisters 3 times. First, during the death of her elder brother. Second, when she fell ill with a contagious disease. And third, during her father's death. I cry now every time I remember our cruelty towards her. For the slightest mistake, my husband tortured her with an electric wire. Often, we deprived her of dinner on cold nights, leaving her hungry. I cannot recall her sleeping a night without crying for many years. When the young girl approached adolescence, she went out one day to buy vegetables and did not return. My husband asked the gatekeeper where she was, and he found out that she was talking for a long time with a young man working at a butcher shop in the same neighborhood. It was likely that she had agreed to marry him and escape from this difficult life. However, a week had not passed before my husband's influence brought her back from hiding. We received her upon her return, with a reception full of all kinds of torment. My husband shocked her with electricity, and my son volunteered to strike her violently, but my daughter refused as she felt pain for this poor servant. The unfortunate girl returned to her difficult life with us and submitted to her fate. Every mistake or delay in work was severely punished. Despite everything, she was always honest, clean, and devoted. She found joy in the simplest things. Gradually, we noticed that she was dropping cups and plates from her hands, and she often stumbled while walking. We took her to the doctor, who confirmed that her eyesight had significantly weakened, and she could now only see what was directly under her feet. She had become almost blind, but even so, we did not spare her. She continued to do all the household chores and go out to buy vegetables at the market. If she came back with vegetables that were not fresh, the gatekeeper's daughter took pity on her and bought vegetables to save her from humiliation and beatings. This continued for some time, and then one day, the young girl left the house after becoming almost blind, and this time we did not bother to look for her. Years passed. My husband retired, lost his position and power. My son finished his university studies, worked, got married, and we were happy for his marriage. Our happiness was complete when we learned that his wife was pregnant. After several months of pregnancy, she gave birth to her baby, who turned out to be blind, a shocking revelation for us. Joy turned into sadness, and we consulted doctors, but in vain. My son and his wife accepted the reality and enrolled their blind son in a center for the blind. My daughter-in-law decided not to have more children for fear of repeating the catastrophe. However, doctors reassured them and encouraged them to try again. She became pregnant and gave birth to a beautiful daughter. The doctor announced that she could see like other children. We were delighted with this double joy. However, after 7 months, we noticed that she stared in one direction, never deviating. We took her to an ophthalmologist, who shocked us by revealing that she could only see a faint glimmer of light and was also at risk of losing her sight. My husband suffered a psychological crisis, and his days darkened. Doctors suggested sending him to a psychiatric clinic to treat his depression. My heart tightened, and suddenly, I remembered the young girl who escaped from our hell. Being blind after enduring 10 years of electrocution, beatings, humiliation, and deprivation. I felt deep remorse. Is this heaven's punishment for what we did to her? The image of that orphaned young girl whom we neglected and made blind haunted my thoughts, and I relied on God's forgiveness for what we had done. After some research, we discovered that she was working as a maid in one of the churches. I went to fetch her and brought her back to live with me for the rest of my days. Despite the harshness of memories, I rejoiced in asking her about herself and trying to bring her back. She returned with me, taking my hand to navigate, and now she lives with us. I take care of her, as well as my blind grandchildren, and she is my hope and prayer for God's forgiveness for what we did. After all this time, she is finally home. And even though painful memories persist, she is now my responsibility, and I hope God will forgive me for what I have done. Finally, I would like to remind those who have lost all compassion. God is alive. Do not be cruel to others, for there will come a day when you will regret what you have done with your power and arrogance.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. Your engagement means a lot. We invite you to join our subscriber family as we continue to share more compelling narratives and explore the diverse facets of human experience together. Your support is truly appreciated.